Hi, everyone, and welcome to Dementia Chats. I'm Lori La Bey, the founder of Alzheimer Speaks, and a daughter of a mother who lived with dementia for 30 years. Dementia Chats was created to raise people's voices who actually are living with the disease, because I think they're so filled with knowledge to share and to help break the stigmas down. And so today, our conversation is going to be on confusion. But before we get started, I'm going to have everybody go around and introduce themselves. So Pauline, if you wouldn't mind starting.
Hi, my name is Pauline Gordon, and I was diagnosed with vascular dementia 8 years ago in 2012 at the age of 57. And I am currently involved in a number of different organizations. The two primary organizations I'm involved with is Dementia Mentors and Dementia Action Alliance. But I'm just pleased to be here today to talk to everybody about what's going on.
Thank you. And Kate, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Kate Lau. I live in Illinois. In 2012, I was 57 and I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, or should I say misdiagnosed. 2 years later, it was confirmed that I do have dementia, and it was behavior variant frontotemporal dementia, which is also known as FTD. I'm involved with several groups, online groups, one being Dementia Mentors. I'm an admin for Forget Me Not Alzheimer's Dementia. I'm a Purple Angel ambassador, and I do little visits at facilities around here, dementia facilities, locally.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kate. And Tim, why don't we have you introduce yourself?
I'm Tim, and I'm from Rochester, New York. I was diagnosed about 2.5 years ago with Lewy body dementia. And I belong to a lot of groups. I call them my family. They're very, very helpful for people, particularly people who are new to the diagnosis. And I just keep going and just take one day at a time. That's all you can do.
Great. Thanks, Tim. And Craig, why don't we have you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Craig Hinkey, from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was diagnosed in 2013 at age 54 with Lewy body dementia. I'm also involved in Dementia Mentors, and I'm an administrator for several groups in Forget Me Not.
Thank you. And Lori?
My name is Lori Shera. I live in Pennsylvania, and I was diagnosed 6 years ago with early onset Alzheimer's and also FTD, frontotemporal degeneration. I'm involved in a lot of groups, mainly Dementia Action Alliance, Dementia Mentors, and AFTD, which is the Association for Frontotemporal Dementia, and other things, but that's good.
Great, thank you. And Creaky. Oh, we got to unmute you, Creaky. I'm trying at my end. I'll let you do it at yours.
There we go. I'm Karen Creekman. I do that a lot. Corpus Christi, Texas. I was diagnosed at 59 with initially Alzheimer's and was changed to unspecified symptoms of dementia. And I'm currently involved mainly in Dementia Mentors, also Dementia Action Alliance, and Forget Me Not. I also started a local cafe here in Corpus, Dementia Spotlight Memory Cafe, since I don't have any support here. So we're hoping to get that taken off.
Well, that's exciting. I know you were talking about that, but I didn't know that it launched, so that's wonderful. And Elon, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Elon Caspi. Both my grandmothers had dementia. I've been working in the aging field for 25 years. Started as a nurse aide in a nursing home where my grandfather lived. I'm here to learn from your lived experience. I truly believe, as Lori, envisioned this platform, that you are the real teachers. So I'll be wise to sit here and listen to you. And if I can share something that I learned along the way, I'll share it as well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Tim, I'm going to have you kick us off, if you don't mind, in terms of our topic of confusion. Maybe if you want to explain how your morning started for us.
It started out fine, but then add too much into your day too quickly, it's hard to handle. I know I had another dementia group coming on later on. Then I got the message from True, which confused me that I was late for that meeting, but it was actually for this meeting. Very easy to get confused when you have a lot on your mind and a lot of plans for the day. It's real easy to go haywire. And then once you're confused, you pretty much will stay that way for most of the day. And it's pretty not, at least with Lewy body, you don't back out of it real quickly. So you just got to take care of yourself. Be gentle yourself. Don't take it personally that your brain's screwing around with you. It's Lewy. Someday I'm going to make a poster of Lewy and use it for a dartboard or something. But it's very easy to get confused when you have dementia. It's how you handle it. You don't let it take you to dark places. You just let it roll off your back and just take the best you can with what's thrown at you during the day, and know that it's only temporary and it does go away. And smile.
So I have a question for you, because one of the things I really appreciated is when you came on, you were very honest, going, "I'm confused," and you explained it. But I found that just really helpful to know where you're coming from. And I think sometimes people try to hide when they're confused, trying to fit in.
They're not doing themselves any favor.
And I think we do it as a society, as a large. I mean, it's just one of those things about trying to fit in. Have you always been really honest about your symptoms with people?
Yeah, so yeah, and my wife probably is closer in tune to me than I am. But if I'm finding myself drifting into that dark area of being so confused, I don't know if I'm coming or going. She usually will recognize it before me, but I will tell her anyway that, I'm just, in one of those places, and you just can't let it take over. You just got to let it go, take it. It goes away on its own. Things calm down, usually in the evening when it's, a lot calmer, quieter. The confusion can slowly abate, and then hopefully the next day you wake up and you just start over with no more confusion. Or there are times when you wake up and you're confused. That could be from REM sleep problems, particularly night terrors and stuff. You can get up. I know that once I have a night terror, I don't go back to sleep because I do not want to fall back into a night terror. Because once you have them, you fall back to sleep, you go right back into them, and they're so disturbing. I lose a lot of sleep over them, and that doesn't help your confusion either. So it's a balancing act.
Now with Lewy body, because I've also heard people say sometimes their confusion mode or their fog will last a few days and then they come out of it and then they're fine. Like I remember Robert Bull is always talking about that. He was like on top of things, and he's like, and then I just dip. And then I'm there, and it might be a few hours, but it could be a few days. Do you run into that as well?
Exactly. I mean, it depends on how much confusion and how much hits you at once. It can actually then throw you into a depression, which makes it worse. That's why I've tried to learn and control it, where I don't, as I say, take it personally. I just know it's part of the Lewy, and until I find Lewy and strangle him, I just have to keep going. And
Great.
it could last a couple hours, it could last a couple days, and sometimes even longer, especially if depression breaks into it. That usually will happen if you take it too personally and you feel like you're falling behind on what you wanted to do. Things don't get done, then depression can enter, and then you're in a whole different kind of hurt.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go on to Pauline, if you wouldn't mind jumping in on how confusion hits you.
Well, confusion hits me in a lot of ways, but one way that I think it might be a little different from other people is that I get very confused about my sleep cycle. Um, I don't sleep well at all. I don't sleep very much at night, but very frequently I get confused. I'll wake up and I won't know whether it's morning or night. I won't know whether I just went to sleep or whether I've had a full night's sleep. And I may, I'll look out the window and it's kind of between light and dark, and I can't really tell. Is it morning? Is it dusk? Is it, morning light, or is it dusk light? And it causes, I mean, sometimes I've gone to bed, gotten up an hour later, gotten dressed, put makeup on, got ready for the day, and I'm all ready to go, thinking that it's morning. So I think that sometimes that is something that I struggle with a lot. And just as far as regular confusion goes, I think memory loss causes a lot of confusion, because if you don't remember something, like I won't remember where my husband is, and I'll get very confused. Is he here? Is he not here? I don't know. Sometimes I have to go and check and look for the car to see if he's roaming around or whether he's here or not. So I get, confused a lot of times about that. And I think the only remedy is to just kind of sit down, maybe talk to somebody else and get reorganized. That helps me a lot.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. Kate, how about you? Do you want to share?
Sure. My confusion just comes like right, like you can talk to me and suddenly you've lost me, because I just don't know where I'm at, or where I'm at, which sentence I'm at, or halfway through a sentence. And lately my husband has been taking notes, and because I've got frustrated and I have a temper. So I just was quite rude to him. And then he said, Kate, wait a second. It's not that I don't hear what you said. I blamed him for it. And then he said, no, let me tell you what happened. These days lately, he doesn't want to hurt my feelings because he doesn't want to further rile me up, He says that these days you come in with a sentence and then you didn't finish, and then you say something else, and then I don't know which one you say. So I said, oh, is that such and such? And then you get mad at me. You said, no, I'm talking about this subject. I said, why don't you hear me? I'm talking about this subject. She said, but just a minute ago you were talking about that. Then I get, I said, no, you're not listening. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I totally have a behavior problem, and I'll get out of the room and I'll go into my den and I stay there, and I can stay there for hours because I did not want to have a confrontation about anything. It takes too much out of me, and I have to settle down on my own. And I think when you're confused, and instead of isolating yourself like what I do, I think the best thing is to call another person with dementia and can understand it. So I've got a friend here who I talk to, I text to a lot, and that's Craig. Craig and I, communicate a lot because we need that friendship. Because you can't talk to someone without dementia; they cannot understand. We have different types of dementia, but then we can communicate some of the symptoms, like, do you do this and that? Exactly. It's like when you take your night meds, if you miss that window, little window that you're tired, you go to sleep. You miss that window, you're awake. You especially have to watch out for that. But then I will be scribbling something. I say, oh, wait a while. If I wait 15 minutes or so, I've missed my sleep window. And that we have in common. So we can talk to each other about something like that. Even if it's one thing, somebody can understand. And I have been so frustrated that I pack my things, and I've heard about this, They like to pack their things, you know, and want to go somewhere. And that's my thing. I pack my bag. I want to move. Whenever I'm frustrated, you know, I don't know what else to do. I'm getting out of this house. It is too big for me. I want a smaller space. Oh, this is so abusive. I've got a 4-story house, you know, blah, blah. You know, it's too big. I feel more safe in a smaller place. I feel more like I can control my environment better. The bigger it is, like when you go shopping or something, I don't go shopping anymore. I go Amazon, so that makes it easier. So when you go shopping, it's like you're out there and you're lost. It's only you and then thousands of people there. They're just noises or things, you know, and that makes me confused. This is a very long time ago when I went to a nursing home. I would see a schedule there. It says Wednesday, 21st, something, something, like barber, salon, activities. And I was quite judgmental. I went like, why do they have to write this? Don't they know what day is today? Then I thought, oh, I'm thinking of myself. This is for people with dementia. It's not for us. They don't remember. Do not mess my schedule. Nowadays, I understand. Do not change schedule on me. That is a big, big deal. You change my schedule because I can only do 2 things in a day. If I go to one doctor, I schedule that another doctor for another day. I know my limitations because then I get very anxious, okay? Confused, anxious, keep on asking, and probably annoying everybody and didn't know about it. So I get confused, I get anxious, and then I have breathing problems. So this has been for a year now. I've been to every department other than labor and delivery at the clinic, you know, and they've seen everything. I heard that I went to pathology, but I didn't know I'd go. They said, oh, we took a lump from your arm there. So I got mad. How dare you take a lump and didn't ask my permission? So now I've covered even pathology. So, you know, all this kind of things are just very overwhelming, very overwhelming. And then when I have started sundowning about 6 months ago, and I told my husband, please pull the shades down. I don't want to look outside. Seasonal changes affect me. So pull shades down means I don't have to look outside and I don't know it's sundowning. It helps. If you see outside, because I'm seasonally affected and it's dusk, the sundowning just get me into depression to the point where I feel like my heart has fallen to my feet and I don't know what to do. And I start this anxiety thing. And when that happens, I cannot control it. So I've been to many doctors and they come to the conclusion that I have generalized anxiety. So it can be all day long anxiety, and that could be caused by my sundowning. And all the other things are kicking in at this point. So that's.
Well, thanks for sharing. I think it's really interesting because Tim had talked about depression, and I think a lot of times when we think about depression, we get quiet and, you know, we kind of isolate. But then when you've got anxiety, it's just that panic. You mentioned the breathing. It's just that anxiousness and that heart rate can get going and stuff. So confusion can trigger a lot of different things. And we all really need to be aware of that. And I think it's fantastic how knowledgeable you guys are at reading your own bodies and what's happening and what's triggering them. And the more that we can communicate that with others, I think the better off we'll all be. So thank you, Kate. Lori, how about you? How does confusion hit you?
It can come just like that. I'll be having a great day, feeling wonderful, and everything's like, oh, wow, look what I can do. And then I go to turn on a light switch and it's in the down position. And something as small as that can trigger me. Or I got to turn on the light switch and it's already in the up position. I think that's what I meant. But even something as minimal as a light switch being the wrong direction can just set me off. You go to party or over somebody's house, you're having a really great time and having fun. And then all of a sudden, it's like nothing makes sense anymore. And the conversations are so overwhelming that you just totally can't think, can't process. It's hard. It's difficult to deal with just suddenly out of the blue waking up and everything's wrong, everything's off. I try to live by routine as much as possible. Get up in the morning, I do the same thing. I raise the blinds, I walk the dog. I try to stick with a routine, because on days that I wake up confused, it's hard just to live. It's hard to remember what we have to do, what order to do things in. So by having a routine, and also I make sure I always have one set of clothes in the closet with everything I need for the day on that one hanger. So if I get up confused, I'm not trying to think what to put on.
Lori, when you do your clothes and stuff, and do you put it on in the order that you put it on, so it's ready? Because I've heard that from a lot of people too, because otherwise it's what order do I put my clothes on, because confusion can be that deep at times, and depending on the progression of the disease.
Yeah, because otherwise you put blouse on and then realize, oh wait, I think I need something under this blouse, So yeah, it's important that everything be laid out. And you only need to have one day's worth just in case. But it's important that everything be laid out in the order it goes on, so that when that happens, it's going to help you a lot.
Great. Elon, go ahead.
Just a quick to add to what you said, we talk a lot about memory as a, contributing factor for certain challenges, but one of the things that is not talked about enough, even among professionals, is executive functions. So the ability to plan, initiate, sequence, monitor, and discontinue a complex task. That I think that may explain it when you have challenges with the executive function. Then what you just described is one of the things that can become a real challenge. So planning as one, there was actually a husband in Israel of a woman with Alzheimer's. He said many years ago, which is what you just did, what you just described, Lori. He said, the three most important things for me as a care partner are preparation, and preparation. Anyways, to set the conditions for success as opposed to a failure. But anyway, I just wanted to add that, and I'm going to just...
If I could add to that, I think for us, preparation takes on the form of continuously being open to new strategies and figuring out how to make my life continue, and how to remain independent. And whether that means constantly keeping one set of clothes on a hanger, whether that means having alarms on my iPad that tell me what I'm supposed to be doing. My life runs by routine and strategy. And when confusion hits, which it hits all of us at some point, to be able to have that routine and have as much written out and prepared in a schedule or something is so helpful. Not having written instructions and a routine, to me, is the same as going to the doctor without the list of what medications you take, or without telling him what's wrong with you. It just has to be. And that's part of preparation. You have to be prepared for the day when you are confused.
Tim, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just want to comment on Lori and Paul, and they're very, very right. Confusion pretty much results if something is out of order, and then you're trying to put it back in. For an example, I came out of the bedroom the other day and I had my underwear over my sweatpants. It's like I had them out of order, and I just didn't catch it. Thank God I wasn't going out. But But I mean, we laugh about it, but it is. It's really the feelings of confusion will result if something is out of order. I mean, it could even be something in the house you're looking for, and it's not in its usual spot. If I have a routine in the morning, I like to follow my routine. If for some reason it gets all screwed up, I'm confused for the rest of the day. So yeah, they're very right. It is losing that sense of continuity that will trigger the confusion.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And I like that you kind of laugh it off and go, okay, well, that wasn't right. Good thing I didn't go out. Because it's really easy to beat yourself up, I'm sure, too, and go, oh my gosh, and then swirl into that depression. So just heading it face on, going, here's dementia, at its finest again.
Exactly. If you don't laugh at it, you're going to go into a depression and beat yourself up. And it just does nobody any good. So, it's to be avoided as much as possible. Not always possible, but to try to avoid going into the darker places that kind of thing can do to you.
Well, and I think too, if you are married or have a partner or family members, being honest about those things, so then if they do happen, people aren't so shocked that it doesn't happen all the time, but these things can occur, and this is just another one when it does occur. I think is a good thing. Elon, go ahead.
So I wanted to, first of all, if you were to leave the house on that day, I'm afraid that the stigma might have showed its ugly face. Hopefully people are aware, your neighbors, but we know that there is such ignorance out there and fear and all that. But what I wanted to try and add to the conversation is, from the perspective of care professionals, I think that it's not just me aware of it, that we professionals, care professionals are too quick. And I should preface and take a step back and say that, obviously what you're describing, the experience of confusion is real. It's a real experience, and it's a valid experience, and it's a very challenging experience. That being said, there's a lot of care professionals and family members and people with dementia that excessively use the word confusion. And I'll tell you what I'm trying to get at. There was a woman in her late 80s and in a care home for people with dementia, and she was trying to leave the secured unit, and she said, I need to leave. A taxi is waiting for me. And the story in general was that people were trying to stop her from going. What are you talking about? You're 87, 89, and you're going to go to your mother's birthday? Is that where you? And it turns out that her mother was very, very old, and there was a birthday, and who was confused here? So we're a little too quick to label people with dementia as confused, even though the experience is real. What I would hope that would happen is tell me exactly what's happening. I am having difficulty to complete the sentence. I'm having a difficulty reaching from point A to point B in my house. I'm having difficulty organizing my thoughts. Tell me exactly what's taking place so I can maybe work with you to assist you, to enable you to succeed in what you're trying to do. But I'm afraid that the word, he's confused. So I used to review communication law by staff in assisted living in 2 care homes for people with dementia a decade ago. And the word confused appeared so many times. But what does it actually tell us? Does it help us? Tell me exactly what's happening. I'm having difficulty putting my clothes in the right order. Okay, now we can work on that. I just wanted to add that.
That's a really, really, really good point, Elon, that we need to define it. It's a huge term, and we need to zone in on that. And the more people can communicate that and feel safe to communicate that to others, the better. Craig, how about you? Can you tell us a little bit about how confusion hits you?
Yes, I'm always in some state of confusion. It just depends on the level of it. Everyone's talked about routines and schedules. That's very key to succeeding in this with this dementia. And that can be thrown off by, like, I like Paul Ann, have trouble sleeping. I either sleep an hour and a half at night or I don't sleep at all. And if you set this, get up at a certain time in the morning and you're exhausted, and you need to sleep, that can throw up your schedule. Right now I'm traveling. I'm at my son's house, about 4 hours from where I live, and I haven't been sleeping the last 4 days. And right now I'm on a 17-month-old granddaughter's schedule. So that can really throw you for a loop. But you have to survive. I said, the world doesn't stop because I have dementia. But little things like Lori was saying about, and Tim was saying about, let's say, groceries that aren't in the same place every day, that can throw you off. So it's key to have schedules, routines. I do well with schedules, but I forget where I'm going with this, but you have to have some kind of you have to have certain things in life that are set up and stay that way, constant. If you don't, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure.
So I have a question for you. Everyone's kind of talking routines and stuff, but I know, like with my mom, as the disease progressed, her routines weren't based on time because she couldn't tell time anymore. And so she used things like what was on the TV or looking outside in terms of time of day for her. Do you still trigger things in your routine by time of day, or do you use something else other than a clock or an alarm to let you know when to do things? I'm going to go to Craig and then to Lori.
I survive on times and schedules. My phone is set up with different alarms, and like today, for instance, the meeting was set up at a certain time, and it had the group meeting or Zoom meeting number on there. Without my phone, I would be lost because it has all the alarms and my calendars and everything on there. So times are a value right now that may change in the future. But right now, I do have a certain schedule set up on my phone.
Okay,
and I was going to say something about confusion, like taking a shower. I get confused as to if I washed my hair or not, or if I washed a certain part of my body or not. So I go out, I take like half-hour showers on because I'm not sure of if I've washed something or not, and throw OCD in there with that, and it makes it 10 times worse. So confusion can manifest in all areas of your life, but for me, taking a shower is one thing where I struggle with.
I remember True talking about that, and she said she lined up her soap, her shampoo, and her conditioner on one side and then would put it on the other side. And she said that worked really good for a while, and then she was like, I'm not sure which side's which. And so then she said she'd start over again. So, I mean, that's a really common thing, and to cause the anxiety and, just the fear of doing it right and, wanting to be, clean and things like that. I can see where that would be really frustrating as well. Lori, you had a comment?
I liked Susan Sutchin's idea about a shower, and that's what I use. And that was, she made a list and had it laminated and posted in the shower. And she'd go right down the list, wash hair, wash whatever, and what to use. And that helps. But I was going to say something else, and darn it, I forgot what it was. I'll come back to that.
Okay.
Oh, I know. Sorry. Boy, that was quick. I use my iPad a lot because I can't handle just alarms, because if alarms go off, I have no idea why these things are ringing like crazy and what's going on. But on my iPad or my iPhone, it actually will say, feed the dog, dementia chats, whatever. But I also rely on my family. My brother Stephen calls me every day between 8:30 and 9. And Stephen had told me he was going away, but I forgot to put in my iPad. So I was waiting to take a shower until Stephen called. He didn't call. Well, it wasn't time to take a shower yet, because I take my shower after Stephen calls. I went 3 days without taking a shower because I was waiting for Stephen to call. And that's kind of like, without realizing it, much of my life does revolve not around just what the iPad or the iPhones tell me, but rather what's happening in life. For example, this one says it's time to eat. Okay, it's time to feed the dog. And she knows, she has a separate alarm on the iPad that rings different. And she knows when her alarm goes off that it's time to eat. And if I don't pay attention, she's going to come and say, yo, that was, your iPad said it's time to eat. So I rely on her and other things as well. Before my husband retired, part of my life was based on when I heard the garage door open, because I knew when I heard the garage door open, it was time for me to get up and start fixing something for dinner or whatever. Now it's like, I don't remember to do that until he says, are we going to eat? Oh, yeah, call and order something, because I just, that was my trigger, and I don't have that trigger anymore, thank goodness. But so I think I don't watch TV very much at all anymore, other than the Hallmark Channel, because the news was getting me too upset. And I think that we had earthquakes in Iraq and bombings in California or whatever, and I kept getting the things mixed up. And too many TV shows, either I can't follow them or they really increase my stress levels. So Hallmark Channel, and that's it for me. So I can't rely on different TV shows to tell me things. But I do rely on a lot of other things in life to tell me, it's time to do something.
Wonderful. Thank you. Craigie, how about you? How does confusion hit you?
Yeah, so when we started, I'm going to make a comment with what Pauline, I've got, everything I'm relating to, I'm kind of writing little notes. And so I'm confused as how to put it all together. So I'm just going to briefly outline, because I don't do this stuff. I was diagnosed when I was 59, in 2014, and I was in the middle of taking care of my father, who had Alzheimer's mid-stage when I was diagnosed. And I was concerned about my own memory. Talked to my therapist. She sent me to so-and-so, initially diagnosed with Alzheimer's and then changed to unspecified dementia. Of course, I fell apart, suicidal, and isolated for years, dropped out of everything. Got back online with my people on Dementia Mentors, who are still there and advocating and living life in the moment. And that's why I'm here. It was 4.5 years before I even mentioned anybody. It was a secret because I didn't show symptoms. I'm independent, I live alone. When I started having problems last year of just being in a room with two people, two close friends, and one would be talking real fast, I would say, "What did you say?" And she would slow down for a little bit, but then another friend would come and interrupt, asking me something different. So it takes me just a few seconds. I understand everything. I comprehend everything. It just takes me a little longer to hear the question, to process it, to answer it. If someone interrupts me, 9 times out of 10, I try to focus on what they asked, and then the other person says, so what were you saying? I'm like, oh, I don't know. And then I would be so self-conscious. Instead of saying, repeat or what were you asking, I would disappear. I would back away from my friends when I was in a group playing games. I felt self-conscious, so I just disappeared until I got back with my people, with my peeps, with the same issues that I have, but different levels, different symptoms, different progressions, to get tips, like what Susan did, like what y'all are doing about, how do you know when you have to quit driving, or what are your tips on how to tell somebody that you're having issues. And initially, when I started telling people, their immediate response was, you don't have it, how do you know? I forget things, do you think I have it? And I would turn blue in the face trying to explain that I have to set 2 alarms inside my house. You're not in my house. Set 2 alarms to everything. Like everyone is saying, make a list. And if I have too many people asking things, if I say, sure, I'll call you or I'll email you this, if I don't have it written down, I'm going to forget it, So now that I'm out, I don't have a problem sharing, saying, help me out, or I'm forgetting this. And just recently had a wonderful lunch with friends in a restaurant, good friends, had a wonderful time, but it was noisy. Everybody was talking different conversations, and only because I'm online with people who are going through this and tell me, it's not important to understand or hear each conversation. I am being out there, I'm being social. If somebody wants to talk with me, hey, Karen, that gets my attention, and I'm perfectly fine and comfortable with that now. I wasn't before, and it feels good. It feels really good to be able to be, I'm just the same as I was before, except I'm having memory issues. And Elon talking about, I have an acronym for my executive function. It's called PIST. It's, planning, initiating, sequencing, and terminating. I remember that one. I don't think I'll forget that one because I like that word. But it's the same thing. I can plan on doing this, going to Dallas. So what does that mean? I've got to do this and this. So I need somebody to help me, what goes underneath the big plan. And I'm getting help with that. So that's kind of where I am. And just to be able to come on and talk with friends who are just coming in, or with people that are ahead and going through the things that I haven't started going through yet. What can I do to keep living independently as long as I can? That's what I get. And I'm so appreciative that I'm with you guys.
Those were some great tips on that. I just think this has been a really enlightening conversation that is going to help a lot of people. Well, one of the things that I think is really important for society is to really be open to listening to people with dementia, making sure we've got a comfortable atmosphere for them to talk honestly about the symptoms, because we know very little about this disease. So I'm going to give you a couple other examples of just with my mom and confusion. She would confuse time and place. So Lori, you had mentioned about the bombings on TV. My mom actually thought the bombings were happening outside her door. And so was just hysterical, crying. I thought she was upset about me cleaning out her closet. And of course made it about me, and then realized, oh gosh, maybe this is upsetting her, turned it off, and she immediately calmed down. Another time we were at a theater, and my mom decided to join the protest scene, and she stood up in the theater and started throwing her fist and screaming with the protest scene, because she didn't realize it was a film. There are so many different ways that confusion can come into place with time, and it's not just somebody not remembering your name. So again, I think it's really critical that we talk, we have open conversations, and really ask to learn. Go ahead, Lori.
I think it's also important to find out what's causing the confusion and look for ways to overcome it. And I'm going to use the example, I hate to cook, I call it the dirty 4-letter C word. Well, I was not able to follow recipes anymore. I'm like, yes. Well, then we realized that the reason I couldn't follow a recipe, unfortunately, we found a workaround for it. You have your ingredients here and the instructions here. I couldn't bounce back and forth. So what we learned to do was rewrite recipes so that the ingredients are at the top, but then in the instructions it actually says add 2 cups of sugar or whatever, so I can check them off as I go down and I don't have to keep looking up to see, okay, how much sugar was I supposed to add or whatever. But finding out, unfortunately, I can't just say, oh, I can't cook anything anymore. But finding strategies and ways to figure out why is this confusion happening and what can we do to work around that so that it doesn't happen. It's real important if we want to keep living and living independently.
Good comments. Alan, before I go to you, I know you had a comment. I want to go to Creaky.
Yeah, I just had a couple of comments on driving. I'm driving, and when I got back on, again, my thought is I'm not having problems driving, but I don't know with the disease as it progresses, what, how will I know? And so I get online with my friends, and how did they know that they were having problems with driving? And there were wonderful tips like getting lost in your local familiar places, being at a stoplight and not knowing whether a red light meant go or stop, being in a left-hand turn lane and not knowing if you're supposed to turn left or right, being anxious driving, scared and driving slow. Those kind of things really, really hit me. And the most important thing, I live alone. What was suggested, other people do, is have someone, drive with you, ride with you. And that way I can't imagine me driving unsafely, but just in case I'm in denial and I don't want to give up my driving, I have someone that's telling me, well, we need to take a look at this. Really important for me to know all of those things.
Oh, that's great. Pauline, and then I'll get to you, Alan, but I want to make sure we get all of their comments in.
I just have a quick comment on that. I think that having dementia and having memory loss, you're going to have a lot of issues, along these lines. And I think that strategies are really critical, as Lori was talking about some of these things, And one of the things that's so important is to be with other people living with dementia to find out what they do and how they handle things. And that's why it's so important to be in a support group with other individuals with dementia, because you do get a lot of tips and you find out, well, how do they handle their confusion, and what tips do they use?
Absolutely excellent point. Alan?
With regards to Lori's encouraging and useful thought and suggestion to work around it, to always try to find a way to work around it. There's a term, you probably heard it, cognitive crutches. There's ramps and there's handlebars for people with physical disabilities, but I think that cognitive crutches could help create the conditions for people with dementia to succeed. Everything is, so many things are setting people with dementia to fail in the community, at home. And to me, that gets to my point, which is with the word confusion. My concern is that people in our society are too quick to say, he is confused, she is confused. It's the dementia, and not giving at least, if not more, equal weight to the factors in the physical and social environment that could be so unhelpful, so unempowering, so labeling, and so confusing, and also setting the person to fail. So I like to play with words, and I think that the word confusion, I'm just taking that word, I'm thinking about 2 parts, co and fusion, in the spirit of collaborative, authentic partnership. If we're really honest about authentic partnership with people with dementia, then we need to find a way to work in together and to find the fusion, to find a way to understand what the person specifically is struggling with, and then working with them in a collaborative way to enable them to succeed in the parts that they can do well, and those that they struggle with. So I just wanted to add that that I think that there's not enough conversation about the factors in society that set people with dementia to fail all the time. And then we say, oh, you see, I hear it all the time in long-term care home nursing. Oh, she's ultra confused. How does it help us? Tell me what's in the physical environment is causing her to feel that way. You talked about in the evening with, with the glare perhaps coming in, or the shadows coming from outside, and putting the shades down, etc. So I just wanted to add that.
I think that that's wonderful, and I like that co-fusion in terms of let's put it back together, let's make it work, let's make it function, and let's do it together. And we can't do that if we're not open-minded and if we're not accepting of realities around us. So it's pushing through some of the denial, or putting things down, or trying to make it sound and make it feel like, oh, well, I do that too. It's not, I hear that from you guys all the time. It's not the same. It's not the same as you guys losing your keys or whatever. And we have to, I think we make those comments trying to not really downplay it, but we don't like to see worry about things either, because we know that added stress goes in there. And so again, it's this whole thing about how do we communicate? How are we really being supportive, or are we just adding to the angst of the situation because we're making somebody not feel heard by the words that we're
right. And Lori, I just want to add real quick that I'm just concerned about blanket statements. Oh, he is confused. We know that cognitive function is multidimensional, and it varies within individual, over time, within an hour, within minutes. There's so many dimensions. And when we say, oh, she is ultra confused, we're not in a position to connect. We're stigmatizing, and we're not in a position to enable the person to succeed in whatever they're trying to do.
And I get that, but I also think we have to speak in the people's language, and confusion is one of those words that is routinely used. And so in order to reach people, to educate people, I think we have to start at that point and then educate through whatever means of communication, if it's written, if it's verbal, if it's video. But I think to me, sometimes that's one of the mistakes we make, is we switch gears, but no one knows what we're really talking about because they're using another term and they've framed it in a different way. But I think you guys have all done a really nice job saying confusion is really, it's an umbrella term, just kind of like dementia is, just like cancer is. One size doesn't fit all. Creaky, you had a comment, and then I'll go to Lori.
I was just going to ask you to make the comment that most people, when we're diagnosed, you don't go straight to end-stage nursing home, incoherent, that there's a lot of good, quality, purposeful life we had. It's a progression, and we all progress at different stages, different symptoms, and I think it's important for people not to identify when I say I have dementia, that my life is over with, and it's not worth talking to me. No.
Good point. Lori?
I think it's hard to use a word other than confusion, because sometimes we don't know what's happening. We don't know what has caused us to be in this state. The one day I had a really bad meltdown because the light switch was in the wrong position. We didn't know that day what was happening. It was like 3 days later that we figured out what caused me to get to that state, which makes it really difficult because you've got to backtrack and say, okay, what was going on when this happened, and try and figure it out. So not knowing what else to say or what is causing us to be that way, just to use the word confusion, is what tends to come out. But I've told Creaky, when people say you don't look like you have dementia, or, oh, I forget my keys also, my general response is, dementia isn't just about forgetting where you put your keys. It's holding your keys in your hand and forgetting what to do with them.
To add to what Lori is saying, confusion is you have your keys in your hand. Confusion is also when you put your earrings on or off. I'm wearing earrings that can just click shut, but it's not the pinching earring, but it's, because about 2 years ago, I took off my earrings and this earring back. And every time you put something in your hand that's small, guess what you think? I've got to take my medicine. So that earring back thing is so bad that I do not wear earrings that has a bag that you take out. I wear these earrings like this or the fish hook. I will say totally no to taking out the back of the earrings in your hand. It's just round and it's just like medicine. And I've eaten earring backs. That is confusion. Little things in your hands. And the scary thing is confusion leads to other symptoms. You go to your room because you're confused. Don't stay too long. You get depressed. Then you stay on your couch. And then what happens? Then you start thinking, I am so useless. I can't do a thing. I feel like I'm just a body, a blob of something that's alive, but now I can't do. With FTD, we have problems with our limbs. Now I can barely walk because of my spine degenerating. So my doctor said, we're going to get a wheelchair. I said, I don't like to be pushed on a wheelchair. She said, well, but the degeneration is really bad and we can't do surgery because of the frontal lobe. So I ordered a manual wheelchair. They're very minimal, just like a chair, because I still want to use my hands, for as long as I can. Because already you don't feel like a person sitting on a couch being isolated. And I think with confusion, there's too few people that find time or can find time. Give them the credit. They have other things to do. To talk to us and say, how do you feel? How exactly do you feel right now? Tell me. If somebody loses a spouse and she can understand, but she looks like she's confused, she's missing something, don't tell her that he's passed away. She won't understand. Just say that he's dead. I know that sounds so blunt, and this person has dementia. But do you want to help her? If you do, use the words that you think they can understand most. Instead of further confusing them by saying he's passed away, your husband has gone to heaven, this will be just too much for them, too much. Because my head gets full. My head gets so full if there's too many words. And I will tell everybody, stop, stop, stop. I cannot take anymore. So imagine at a later stage how they feel. And they can't express, and they can't say, stop, stop, stop.
Yeah,
but you're confusing.
And I'm just going to jump in with, with somebody passing. I think, again, like you've all expressed today, you react differently to confusion. It shows up in different symptoms in different ways. And I think when it comes to grief and passing, it's going to depend on the personality. It's going to depend on the relationship. It's going to depend on the progression of the disease. And I know with my mom, to keep telling her that my dad had passed or died, she would relive that all over again. And so our goal was to keep her calm. And so we'd say, well, he's left for a little while, and it's a fiblet, and some people aren't comfortable with that. I remember being out, I don't remember in what state, and one daughter just said, I could never lie to my mother. And I'm like, okay, these are your choices. You can tell a fiblet and keep her comfortable, or you can keep telling her the truth and keep getting her upset. So I think we have to read what's going to work with everybody. And again, knowing the person that you're dealing with is critical. And so I think that that's a good point. But I do want to wrap up and keep us to our normal time frame here. But I want to just thank everybody so much for your conversation today. Your insights, I think, were fantastic. And so thank you, and keep up the good work out there. You're all advocating and raising your voices along with everyone else's, and just being brave and courageous enough to share your true journey. I think that's how we're really going to forge forward in fighting this battle. So thank you all. And listeners, please share this with others. That's why we do these things. So this is important information to get out, and it's free, so utilize it. Thanks again. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.